welcome as we get set to get started with our debate here today. And this will be between the candidates for the 15th Congressional, the Republican nomination for the 15th Congressional District here today with Congressman John Shimkus and State Senator Kyle McCarter. Go through a few things before we get started. This is sponsored locally by McCarter, Robertson, McCarty, and Click Insurance and Priority Staffing Group. It's also brought to you as well by the Cromwell Media Group and by the Vandalia Chamber of Commerce. We are on the air, of course, here at WKRV and WPMB. We are also on the air, WCRA in Effingham, AM 1090, 99.5 and 96.3 FM in Effingham, at WMCI 101.3 in Mattoon, and WZUS Talk 101 in Decatur. So we are in Vandalia, Effingham, Mattoon, and Decatur for this live debate here today. Run through the rules as it would be. We will start with a 4-minute opening from each candidate. When we get to question and answer, it will be a 2-minute answer from each. Now, if one of them wants a rebuttal minute, that is allowed, and we would allow a rebuttal of the rebuttal. But after that, we would stop with just 3 total minutes on the question and answer for each candidate. And then we will have 3-minute closings by each candidate as well. We flipped a coin for pretty much everything to get us started, and so we will get going. Congressman John Shimkus will go first with his opening statement, and Congressman Shimkus with his 4-minute opening statement.
Todd, thank you. I want to thank WKRV for hosting this event. Obviously, it's being carried all over the district, and that's great. I've always been in public service, and I still think public service is an honorable career, having served in the Army and 3 years in West Germany, coming back to teach high school. I did that for 4 years. Was a county treasurer for 6, and then got elected to Congress. And it's a job that I like because I like serving people. And it's an honorable career. There's a lot of different aspects of this job. One is being available and accessible. And of course, being this broadcast all over the place, right here in this region, I've been very helpful with Pinnacle Foods. I've also been involved with water development and safe drinking water in Brownstown and rural development applications here for numerous county office hours, and available and accessible. That's one big part of the job. Another big part of the job is legislative achievements. What are you doing to help improve the lives of our citizens? And I point to a couple. There's many examples. One is the cellular 911 call system. Put me involved in emergency services communications. I'm involved with the public services entry points and the identification location based upon cell calls. There was a time when you cross state lines that you would have to dial a different number than 911. Also, another thing that I've been very helpful for is the deployment of auxiliary emergency defibrillators in public areas across this country. It's a long story about how we got involved with that, but I think it's part of my connection with the public safety community, which is exciting. Of course, the 15th District is one of the largest east of the Mississippi. It's an agriculturally intense. I've been a leader in agricultural issues, and it was a farmer in Marion County, Dwayne Ford, who came up to me and said, "Hey, we need to expand and get more markets for our soybeans," and hence we started moving on renewable credits for biodiesel, and that has been a very, very successful program, and I can thank Dwayne for that. Another thing is the renewable fuel standard in ethanol. I'm considered Mr. Ethanol in Washington, D.C. I was there when we passed the 2005 Energy and Policy Act. I was in the committee to make sure that happened. So that's another part of the job. But this is a Republican primary also. So it's good to talk about what have you done for the party. Todd, of all the people, you've observed the change in dynamics in Southern Illinois. People in this county, the congressman previous to me was a Democrat, a guy named Dick Durbin. A guy I ran against earlier in my career, but then was successful to take his open seat. Before I got elected, we didn't have a single Republican congressman south of Springfield. Now we have 3. We've got Congressman Davis, and the 13th we just got elected Congressman Bost. And what does that do? We've seen it here in Fayette County. You get more countywide officials. You get more county board members. You bring conservative government to Southern Illinois, or in portions of this district we would define as deep Southern Illinois. So I'll end on this. Who's asked me to continue to run and serve? Every elected rep and senator who lives in my district has asked me to run. The National Rifle Association, I'm the only endorsed candidate. The National Right to Life, I'm the only endorsed candidate. The Farm Bureau, I'm the only endorsed candidate. The U.S. Chamber has me as their only endorsed candidate. The National Federation of Independent Business. All these groups that represent hardworking citizens of the 15th District have looked at my record and said, we really want John to continue to serve. I appreciate that, and I ask for your listeners' votes when he goes to the polls on Tuesday.
All right, thank you, Congressman Shimkus. And now the opening statement from State Senator Kyle McCarter.
Well, thank you, Todd, and thank you to your station and all your affiliates. This is a day I've been looking for, asking for. It's unfortunate that it's only a few days before the election. I would have liked this to have been in a town hall setting to where the people could have sat there and listened to us. But this is a good opportunity, so I'm appreciative for it. Let me just say that I've been in the state Senate 7 years, and I have. I believe one of the best solutions to a very dysfunctional state and federal government is term limits. Term limits speaks to the intent of why people are there. And for that reason, I'm term limiting myself in the state Senate. I will not run again in 2018, no matter what happens. The career politicians tend to make decisions that are not in the best interest of the people. They tend to make decisions that are best for their power, their position, and their pension. And unfortunately, that was a broken promise by our representative. He made that promise, and he broke that promise that he made 20 years ago. And so it's very important in this race. I am unfortunately, he has become part of the problem in Washington. And that's why I'm stepping up, because I believe I have the ideas, the energy, and the track record as a reformer to make a difference in Washington. There's a reason that I'm endorsed by Family PAC, Illinois Family Institute, the Illinois Citizens for Life. I'm the only one endorsed by them. And as well, I have been endorsed during my term in the Senate by the Farm Bureau, by the Chamber, and by the NFIB. And so, you say, well, why did you not get those endorsements that your opponent did? Well, those are endorsements from Washington. You see, I'm not endorsed by Washington. I'm endorsed by the people locally. I'm endorsed, and do I have every politician backing me? No, I don't. I've got the people backing me. And, I don't have the political power to go to the local politicians and say, listen, you got to back me because I'm going to help you out. There's a real contrast in this race. And folks, 20 years is enough. You've got a choice, finally, after 20 years, you've got a choice between a 20-year politician or a businessman with 25 years experience like myself. I look forward to talking about the issues, and glad we had this opportunity.
All right. Thank you, Senator McCarter. Now into our questions. Our first question, and it will go to Congressman John Shimkus. As you've traveled through the 15th Congressional District, what are some of the biggest concerns that you have heard from folks throughout the 15th Congressional? So what are some of the biggest concerns and biggest issues that you have heard?
Yeah, number one is jobs and the economy. It's easily the number one issue. The president's war on coal is devastating Southern Illinois. Is numerous rules and regulations coming out from the EPA, whether it's the Clean Power Plan, whether it's Mercury MAC, whether it's cooling towers, whether it's the Stream Protection Rule, whether it's Waters of the U.S. They all are disincentive for coal mining. And also the Clean Power Plan is a challenge for generation. baseload generation is under attack, especially fossil fuel. That provides a lot of power and low-cost power, and that's issue number one. That also, Glacia's mine is going to close. That has a tumbling effect of the retail locations, the food and the restaurants, the gas stations, and the like. The other thing is war on terror. I mean, I think people, after they've seen San Bernardino and they've seen Paris, they know that we still are a nation at risk. And so they really want us to be strong on our military. We want to have a good posture. We want to make sure that we do what, like we did with the bill on the visa waiver provisions, to ensure that we don't have radical Islamists, come into this country, and we want to make sure we know who's in this country at the same time. So that's why those are the two top issues. Fortunately, we've been able to address some of those with we're also a big livestock sector, so when we passed a piece of legislation on country of origin labeling, that was very helpful to the pork producers in this congressional district, and major win for them, because we need to continue to expand our markets, especially for our commodity products. So jobs in the economy and the concern on Islamic radicalism really top the list of things that people are concerned about.
All right. Thank you, Congressman Shimkus. Same question to you, Senator McCarter, as you've traveled through the 15th Congressional District, talked with folks. What are the biggest concerns that you have heard?
Well, I agree that the economy is central, because, folks, they just want to take care of their families. They want an opportunity to work. The people of this district are hardworking people, and they just want opportunity. And when you've got EPA rules and you've got executive orders that are putting our people out of work, specifically in the coal mines, and specifically not allowing us to run power plants with our coal, that's hurting people. And, I think you have to go into, if you're looking at being to represent the people, you've got to look at a few things. You've got to keep it real clear. What are you there to do? You're there to do a few things. You're there to protect the economy, so that families have an opportunity to make a living. You're there to protect American values. And then you're there to protect them physically. And unfortunately, our congressman has not done this. By voting, you can say you're for those things, but if you vote to do the opposite, you haven't represented us. And by voting for the omnibus bill, by voting to fund sanctuary cities, Planned Parenthood, Obamacare, Obama's amnesty programs, and the Syrian refugees, you haven't done that. You haven't made us safe, and you haven't protected our values, and you haven't protected the economy by pouring trillions of dollars of debt on us. In 20 years, we've gone from $5 trillion in the national debt to 19. Someone has to be responsible.
If I may respond.
Yes, and this will be the 1-minute rebuttal from Congressman Shimkus on this.
Great.
1 minute.
Let's talk about jobs and the economy just for a minute. I mean, the good thing about the senator is he has a record also. And I want to quote a reporter who said that Senator McCarter had a chance to help build a coal mine or a power plant in Taylorville, Illinois, promised to vote for it, and both voted against it. So Christian County lost a major economic engine, a coal mine, and jobs and the economy. Not only that, he sponsored a bill that said, I want more environmental regulations and review of coal mining operations in southern Illinois. That's on the record, too, a piece of legislation. So when he talks and rails about the EPA, and you can check in Washington who's the number one opponent of the EPA is Congressman John Shimkus. He has a record, too, of which is opposite of mine. I'm fighting against. He has supported new regulations on coal mining in southern Illinois. He has voted against a coal mine and a power plant in southern Illinois. He's the one who's helped destroy jobs in southern Illinois as a state senator.
Right, and Senator McCarter, you're allowed 1 minute.
You know what? This matches the mailers, this matches the TV ads, this matches the radio commercials. Sir, no, it's not just the truth. You're talking. Can I respond?
Yeah. Again, a reminder. The one thing I want to keep is one at a time. So,
Yeah.
Senator McCarter.
So you're speaking of Tenaska. And you're right. Tenaska was not good for the people. Tenaska was a guaranteed return on an exaggerated cost of putting that power plant in place. It was a lie to the people. It was wrong. It would have raised the power rates in this state. It was the wrong thing. And I wasn't the only one behind that. The chamber itself was against that. The manufacturers were against that. Everyone that was concerned about the rate of power was against that. It was wrong, and I know much more about it than you know. I know the cost of the equipment that came in from Siemens. I knew exact cost, and I put those costs on the table. That was a rip-off to the taxpayers. And the second thing, on coal in the environment, you're talking about a bill that said that when longwall mining comes into our communities and drops the ground 10 feet, the county board needs to at least ask how they're going to reclaim our farm land correctly and protect it. There was not a regulation. It was not an environmental regulation. I'm a promoter of coal, of burning coal. In fact, I'm in a consortium right now to sell 6 million tons of coal. So I don't know where you get this. That's a distortion of the truth, sir.
Your record's clear, and you flipped your vote on Tenaska.
No, did I change? Yeah, because once I researched it, I have enough wisdom and courage to say it was the wrong thing to do for the people of this state.
Moving on to the next question at this time, and this will start with you, Senator McCarter. Of those concerns that you've heard about, those concerns that that have been brought up to you by the folks in the 15th Congressional District, what are some plans or ideas you have to fix or try and alleviate those issues? Well,
I think both of us are hoping and doing everything we can to make sure that we have a Republican president. Okay, I mean, when all this is said and done, we want the executive branch. We want someone to stand up and lead and not do and not continue the attacks that our current president has done on coal, on our local businesses. I mean, we don't want that, but we want a president that understands that. What I would do is say to him, Mr. President, I need you to come to Illinois and I need you to reverse every EPA rule that has shut down our coal mines. Reverse every executive order that has kept us from burning coal and put our people back to work. And you know what? He'll be a hero. I'd love to make the next Republican president a hero by coming back and reversing this attack on coal and putting our people back to work. And, you know, there's another thing that deals with jobs here too. We need to quit letting people flood across our borders illegally. And at some point, we have to defend the American worker. I mean, that's what this is down to. Illegal immigration and allowing it and paying for it, as was paid for in the omnibus bill, voted for by my opponent, is not defending the American worker. At some point, we've got to start defending Americans, legal American citizens.
Okay. I didn't know if you were reaching for something or
no.
Congressman Shimkus, the same question to you. Of those concerns that you've heard from the folks around the district, what are some plans you have to fix those issues?
Yeah, thank you. Of course, and let me just address. No one has a stronger record on the border than I have. I voted to build a fence. I voted to put soldiers on the fence, and I would agree. Illegal immigration, a sovereign nation, has to be able to protect its borders, and we continue to fail to do that, and that's a failure. Jobs and the economy is number one. We got a governor who's trying to change Springfield, and he's in a big fight. And one of those issues that he's trying to do is change our worker comp laws. So why is my opponent running away from that fight to join another fight? Why isn't he helping our governor? That's probably the number one thing that would help get Illinois' economy back in order. We pay 3 times more in worker comp costs. So if we've got someone in the oil patch, a roughneck, who is working that field, his worker comp costs are 3 times more, and that's just challenging, and that's just wrong. Of course, this is a very agricultural intensive community. That's why I've been focusing on the country and origin labeling for our pork producers who can now sell their products overseas and also use our grain. That's why the renewable fuel standard and ethanol bring more value to our local farmers. Of course, these are the reasons why the Farm Bill's endorsed me. The biodiesel provision, which is bringing more market and more demand to soybeans, is a way you do that. Again, and we've got to do all we can to ensure that we keep these power plants running and our coal mines operating. And again, as we continue to fight the administration on the war on coal, having people who are fighting against that at the state level is not helpful for jobs and economy in rural southern Illinois.
And Senator McCarter, your 1 minute rebuttal, sir.
Yeah, this is quite entertaining, actually. My opponent talking about workers' comp as though he knows much about it. You know, first of all, those same oil guys in the oil business pay $48 48% premium versus Indiana at $8. That's the difference. It's a 40% premium. And you're right. We have to do something about workers' comp. And I've started from the day one that I got into office. And we've passed one bill already. We've got another bill teed up with the governor. And you know what? No one knows more about workers' comp and has pushed for it more than me, because I know about it by experience. I've had to pay the claims. As a small business owner, after 17 years, I've been the one penalized. I've the one that's moved businesses into this state, manufacturing businesses in the state, and had to pay the penalty and given up the profits where I could have gone elsewhere, but I didn't. You know, we talk about the governor and supporting the governor. What about the governor supporting you? He's for term limits. You're not. This man is for smaller government. You've made it bigger by voting for the omnibus. He's for less spending. You've spent more. You voted 9 times to increase the debt ceiling in this country. I mean, you guys are the odd couple here. I have no idea how he can endorse you. I mean, he's for redistricting reform, and you gerrymandered yourself into your own district, and you gerrymandered me out. How can that be? I mean, I'm just really at loss of words here in regards to why you say I don't support the governor. I was one of 2 senators that endorsed him in the primary. And he says, "Oh, you've been with him how long?" You weren't with him. I was with him. I helped get that man elected. Now, that's not loyalty, and shame on him for doing what he's done. But don't think that endorsement is going to help you, because it is completely different than the way you've acted.
Todd, if I may.
Yes, sir.
So it's interesting when my opponent talks about gerrymandering and redistricting, where he is trying to pick his own district because he doesn't even live in the district that he's running in. So that's the really curious thing. He lives in another congressional district, but he chooses to run in the 15th district. He's choosing the district, not me. And I like to ask my opponent, how much worker comp costs do you pay for your employees in China? And the outsourced jobs that you have and the manufacturing facilities and the jobs that could be here that are in your manufacturing facility in China.
Are you totally serious?
I'm very serious. What is the worker comp cost for China?
I have no idea, because I don't have any business there.
Oh.
So
the quote by the Belleville News Democrat that says...
When was it?
That you said...
When was the quote?
China was a capitalist dream over there. And explained why he used Chinese imports in his business out of pride. And then he mocks American manufacturers. You mock American manufacturers because you say, out of pride, people will stick with the American manufacturers even if they can get something else for 10% cheaper somewhere else. But when it's 30% less, you have to adapt or you're out of business. So you mock the American manufacturers, you import jobs, and you export jobs to China, you import goods
That is
made in
completely
China.
false, sir.
Yeah, I'm just quoting the Belleville paper who ran the story.
Well, you're like you've done in the past and in this race. You've looked for a headline and published it as though it's
Kyle,
true.
you have a record.
Now, look, if you want to come see American workers making American products, you come to 20, 30, and 40 Commerce Drive in O'Fallon.
Remember, you invited me.
You come to all three and see people making American products. Now, you know what they're also doing? They're taking products from China and re-engineering them and making them here.
So you're taking products from China.
No,
you're not buying American manufacturing goods and doing it in the base commodity products
that were designed there and
designed
in
China.
No, they were failures.
Okay, what were they made in China, or were they designed in China, or who did this, Kyle? And why aren't you using American manufacturers or American designed products?
John, you can't stand. Here's
I'm just asking the question.
You're just asking because you can't defend your record for 20 years here.
Very defended.
And again, if you want to come see American-made products made in America, in O'Fallon, Illinois, at 2030 and 40 Commerce Drive, come on.
I just quoted. Your Bevel News Democratic article.
Market. And
China is a capitalist dream.
And every manufacturer understands the pressure that is put on them to export. I could have taken advantage of millions of dollars by importing from China if I had chosen to, but I did not. And I'm employing people, as many as I can, in a difficult environment to make products in America. Now, you're willing. You're sure welcome to come and look at it again. If you doubt this,
everybody has a record.
I'll invite anyone to come for a plant tour, and perhaps after this, there'll be a job opportunity.
Everybody has a record.
For you.
Well, a couple of things I will highlight as we'll move on to the next question. I do ask the two candidates to please try and refrain. Allow the other individual to finish before we jump back in, and just follow that decorum. So, but I will just remind you of that as we move on to the next question. This will start with you, Congressman Shimkus. Although you are running or serving in a federal office, you serve a huge group of Illinoisans. The 15th Congressional District, as we talked about, is enormous. How, as a congressman, can you help improve the economic climate in the state of Illinois? Start with you, Congressman.
Yeah, we kind of talked about jobs and the economy to begin with, and so we have to reform and simplify the tax code. The corporate tax structures is not competitive with the world. I mean, we're at 35%. The world's at 25%. So reforming that, streamlining that, making fairer, flatter, and simpler. Easing the regulatory burden, whether it's the Department of Labor rules or whether it's the EPA rules and regulations. One of my oversight responsibilities is with the EPA. And, when they have to deal with Superfund sites and major cleanups, they have a role to play. But they don't have a role. In fact, we stopped them from trying to regulate farm dust. I don't know, Todd, we talked about this before, where they were going to propose a rule to regulate the dust, I would say, on township roads or when the harvester is cutting beans. And the agricultural community, that was a specific question that I addressed to the administrator of the EPA, and we really got the EPA not to move forward on that piece of legislation or that rule and regulation. So you can put pressure. You can do it by a process of due diligence and hard questioning. It's part of the oversight responsibilities. We don't win all the time, but we have to have those fights.
All right, thank you, Congressman. Senator McCarter, the same question. Although you're running or serving in a federal office here, you do serve a huge amount of Illinois'. 15th Congressional District is quite massive. How, as a congressman in Washington, can you help improve the economic climate for the state of Illinois? Well,
I think you've got to be very vocal about reducing the size of government. And, it's interesting that in Illinois, many people and families, small businesses, are just now crawling out of the recession. Some have not. And it's unfortunate because some other states have prospered, like Texas and Florida, with the people that have left our state to go there. It's unfortunate that Washington, D.C. never went through the recession. They were just fine. If you want to see cranes and high rises being built, go to Washington, D.C. It's bigger. It's bigger than it's ever been. And so the Department of Education needs to go away, and with its Common Core. And that needs to be brought to the local level, needs to be brought to the state level with minimal guidance from the state and the majority of the guidance at the local level. Because, kids are not all the same. We have different cultures that kids are taught in. And those in Vandalia are not like those in Rockford, that are not like those in Danville, or not like those in East St. Louis. And there's greater accountability where there's transparency. And we shouldn't have to run shouldn't have to run to Springfield to decide how we're going to teach our kids. We sure shouldn't have to run to Washington to decide how kids are going to get taught. And so that's one of the examples of how we make government smaller. We can make the EPA smaller with a simple flat tax, fair tax. We can get rid of the IRS. And this is another thing. Obamacare. You can't just say you're against Obamacare. Everyone wants to repeal it. We know it doesn't work. We know it's not sustainable. I mean, I had a 40% increase in rates in my business just this year. Kept me from hiring a new person. But you got to put something on the table and say, what are you going to replace it with? You're going to have competitive policies nationwide, health savings accounts, and really address wellness. We need to put something on the table instead of just saying we're going to repeal it. And that's going to translate into more opportunity for our families to make a living.
Okay. Any rebuttal? Doesn't look like you're on this one. So move on to the next question. This will start with you, Senator McCarter. 3 things that set you apart from your opponent. 3 things that set you apart from your opponent.
Well, as I said from the beginning, term limits is important. I don't believe that the Founding Fathers meant for this to be a career. I know it sounds nice to say you have a career in public service, but it was never meant to be a career. It was meant for teachers, business people, farmers, people from all walks of life to come in and serve and then get out. Use the experience that you have in life to provide good governance and good laws and then get out. And so again, I'm term limiting myself. I will term limit myself in Congress as well and limit my term in Congress to that of 10 years. And that is a big difference because I'm keeping that promise and my opponent has broken his. And so that's a big difference. Another difference is go back to big government. You can't say you're against big government and vote for big government. When you vote, and you can't say you're for protecting the American family when you pour trillions of dollars of debt onto them. That's a big difference. Another difference is this. You know what? Planned Parenthood. There's been all kinds of lies told about me and how I've supported Planned Parenthood. That is so insulting. I want you to know. There's a reason Illinois Citizens for Life have endorsed me. It's because I have come to the defense of every life the whole time I've been in the state Senate. And the difference is my opponent has actually voted for it when it was in the continuing resolution and the omnibus. You can't march in front of Planned Parenthood here in the state of Illinois and then jump up and go and vote for it twice. There's a very clear difference. The difference is you've got a businessman with 25 years of experience or you've got a career politician that's been in there for 20 years.
And Congressman Shimkus, the your response, 3 things that set you apart from your opponent.
Well, first I want to respond to the Planned Parenthood attack because in the 97th General Assembly, Kyle, you voted to support Planned Parenthood.
That's not
He
true.
doesn't understand the funding mechanism. Planned Parenthood comes out of Medicaid, which is directed by state contracts. It doesn't come out of the omnibus bill.
Do I get state contracts?
And the Medicaid program is a state program which you supported that contracted out to Planned Parenthood. So, unfortunately, again, false accusations, and it doesn't help the process. The second thing is, I've always run against Democrats trying to bring conservative policies to local, state, and federal government. I ran against Dick Durbin. My opponent really hasn't had ever a competitive race and never really raced against a tough Democratic opponent. I run in the districts I live in. My opponent does not live in this district and is running, and he's trying to choose his district, which is always, always a challenge when you're trying to be a reformer. Why would you kind of game the system and take advantage of an issue? I served in the military. Not only 5 years active, West Point graduate, served on the West German border. I understand the needs of men and women in uniform. And as much as my opponent attacks the omnibus bill, half of that money is for defense. So in voting against the omnibus bill, you really voted against Scott Air Force Base. You voted to deprive our men and women in uniform the money they need, the equipment they need, the resources they need, and I'll always stand up for the men and women in uniform and our veterans.
And rebuttal from Senator McCarter.
Oh wow! So you're protecting protecting the defense budget was worth voting for Planned Parenthood.
I didn't vote for Planned Parenthood.
You know what? It was. It was line item in your bill.
It's a Medicaid.
The difference is, here's the difference. Lump sum funding to the Health and Human Services in the state of Illinois is not, and where that money goes is not up to the legislature. It's up to the governor. The governor is the one that decides the contracts, and you know that. And that is such a lie. That is such a distortion of the truth. And I resent it. I mean, you know what? I'm embarrassed that you would lie and spend millions of dollars on TV and ads, slandering me. That's what's upsetting. And here's the thing. You talk about, I don't know, are we going to talk about residency at some point? Because if not, I'll talk. Okay, well, you talk about residency. Yeah. You gerrymandered yourself into this, and you gerrymandered me out.
Who draws the
map?
Sense. Who draws the maps, Kyle? The legislature draws the map. That's Springfield.
I'll get there. 9 of the 33 counties I've served for 7 years. It only makes sense that I serve the people that I've been serving so far. And here's what happened. You were out of the district at the map. I was on the floor. I was there when it was being voted on. And this pigtail amendment came on there. You know why? Because, sir, you went to your friend, the patron saint of Scott Air Force Base. That's how you call Jerry Costello. You went to your Democrat friend.
I never called Jerry Costello.
He went to Speaker Madigan, and Speaker Madigan went to President Cullerton, went to Kwame Raoul, and that amendment came on at the last minute. Are you
denying that you don't live in the district?
Minute. I'm telling you, I live 4/10 of a mile south of the border.
So you don't live in the district?
That is correct.
Okay.
How did I get on the ballot then if that's an issue?
Well,
how did I get on the ballot?
I think it is an
Does
issue.
that disqualify? No.
But
listen,
you don't live in the district.
I have served
you are
9.
admitting that you don't live in the district.
But you don't want to talk about how you use the Democrats to gerrymander yourself into the district?
It's a legislative process. Are you kidding me?
No,
I'm a Republican.
Listen, no, you gerrymandered yourself into this, and this is what people are sick of. We're going to vote in November.
So you're admitting that you don't live in the district.
We're going to vote in November on redistricting reform. Do you want redistricting reform? I guess not.
Why haven't you done it already?
You've used it to your advantage.
Why haven't you done it already?
Hey, listen,
you talk about all this positive change.
I was for reform before reform was cool. Listen,
yeah, right.
The governor got here, and now we've got all these things on the list to reform. I was working on this before he got here.
And he endorsed me over you. Who's the reformist?
And still no one understands why, because you're totally different.
Yeah, I guess I'm the more reform-minded individual.
No, you said that if you never run, I've never run against a tough Democrat opponent. Maybe I am now.
Moving on to the next question, Congressman Shimkus, we'll start with you. Looking at the presidential candidates right now, the 4 Republicans that are running, they could not be any more different if they were different parties. Is the Republican Party in trouble? When we look at Donald Trump, when we look at Ted Cruz, Mario Rubio, Governor Kasich, I mean, they are completely different people. Honestly, they're almost like 4 completely different political parties right now that we're looking at. So is the Republican Party in trouble? Is it that broken up right now?
Actually, I'm pretty excited about the presidential race. I've said publicly numerous times I'm going to vote for the delegate, the candidate that comes out of our convention. I'm going to support our nominee. Look at what's happened. You have I think our base has gotten bigger. You had three groups. You have the populist arm, which is represented by Donald Trump. You have the uncompromising conservative group, which is represented by Ted Cruz. And then you have everybody else, and that was being filled by Marco Rubio. People forget Marco Rubio was the first Tea Party candidate elected to the U.S. Senate. So they automatically think, oh, he's the most moderate guy. Well, no, he's a pretty hard conservative. So that's kind of where our party is to the right. I think the excitement and the bringing in of new people is just like the Tea Party element. I appreciate their engagement and their involvement. They've been additive to our party. They bring strength. They bring emotion. They bring passion. I think my opponent same way. And when you make a district more Republican like we have Southern Illinois, you got to expect competition, and competition is good. It makes us better. And so I think we're going to be okay.
Same question to you, Senator McCarter, with four very different Republican candidates right now for president. Do you think the Republican Party, as it sits now, is in trouble?
No, I don't think we're in trouble. I think the debate has probably been better than in races, previous. I think we're talking about things today that probably wouldn't be talked about if Donald Trump wasn't in the race. I doubt we'd be talking about immigration. I doubt we'd be talking about building the wall and defending American workers if he wasn't in the race. I like different things about, all the candidates. But one thing, and I'll tell you, some the policies that Ted Cruz has, I think are well thought out policies. I've really looked at it. In regards to Donald Trump, he's made it real clear that, we need somebody, whether it's him or Ted Cruz or whoever. We need somebody that can negotiate well for us. And this goes right back to this omnibus bill. If somebody in my company was going into a meeting and they came out with a deal and they said, oh, this is a good deal, and I hear the other side say they gave away the store, I'm going to fire that person. We have people that go up and our representative voted for the omnibus bill. Voted for it. It was poorly negotiated. 2,000 pages, not even read, not even knowing what was in it, except they did know that Planned Parenthood was in it. They knew that the funding for the Syrian refugees is in there. They knew that the president's amnesty plan was in there. They knew this was all funded. Somebody needs to be fired for this. Mm-hmm. And I contend it's those that voted for it.
Congressman Shimkus with a rebuttal.
Yeah, my opponent keeps distorting the record on Planned Parenthood, where that's a Medicaid dollar program that's funded through the state government, which he voted for. The omnibus repeals the old export ban and increased resources for our military. It strengthened the visa waiver program. It prohibited new funding for Obamacare. It stopped the transfer of Guantanamo detainees. It blocked EPA overreach, reined in the IRS, maintained strong protections of life, honored our commitment to our veterans, provided critical health care to 9/11 health care, first responders, and repealed actually harmful labeling requirements for the country of origin labeling, which we talked about in a big win for our pork producers in this congressional district. So again, 50% of the omnibus was money to our military. You vote against that, you vote against our military.
Although 94 conservative Republicans chose not to vote for it. And although you talk about this military, what about the $100 million for the Russian missile engines that was within it? What about that? Was that a great thing? Was that something we really needed? Here's the thing. We disagree on this bill. We disagree on whether it should have been voted for or not. And I just think that we need better negotiators going to Washington. See, I've had to negotiate with my own money my whole life. And if I don't do a good job, I don't come home with a paycheck. And when you don't come home with a paycheck, it's not a romantic weekend telling your wife that everybody's getting paid but you. I mean, we need people to go to Washington to be able to negotiate like it's our own money. And you know what? You said it yourself. After you're there so long, you lose touch with the people back home. You said that in 1996. And I just submit that that's what's happened here. We've lost touch.
Move on to our next question, and this will start with Senator McCarter. What do you think of Donald Trump?
Well, again, I guess I'll just. I believe that he has. I do believe he has the best interest of the country. I don't think he'd step off if he didn't want to serve. Now, I don't know who's going to win this race, and I'm not endorsing anybody. But I will say that the positive trait that he has is that he seems to want to protect the American economy. He seems to want to give opportunity to people to make a living. He does have a very strong stance on immigration, and that stance matches mine. I'm for legal immigration only. We can't allow people to come racing across the borders and take advantage of benefits that we have paid tax money for, and they're supposed to be set aside for the most vulnerable, legal American citizens. We can't do that any longer. We have to protect the American worker. There's a reason wages go down. It's because we've got this excess of supply of labor, of people that are not paying taxes, and they're still getting benefits from the government. That's the way that's the reason that price comes down. And so, I like the fact that I like his immigration stance. I like the fact that he's a negotiator. And if perchance he ends up being the president of the United States, I think he'll surely listen to one small, a businessman like myself, at bringing real change to the state of Illinois.
Congressman Shimkus, same question to you. What do you think of Donald Trump?
Yeah, I think I've enjoyed his participation in the process because he's bringing new people into the debate and discussion. When you have blue-collar workers, maybe independents or Democrats, saying, I want to listen to what this guy's saying, I think that is very helpful to our process. It addresses the number one issue in my district, which is jobs in the economy. It also says to Democrats or independents, hey, we're listening, and we have had stagnant wages. This has been a terrible, slow recovery, if you even want to call it that. It's been embarrassing, and people are frustrated because they're just not keeping up, and that frustration is boiling over. He's giving air to those voices, and I appreciate him being involved in the process, and I too, of course, I'm going to support our nominee, and it could very well be Donald Trump. So, on to November with that.
Okay, well, I'll do a follow-up question on this. I'll start with Senator McCarter on this. The one thing you hear often about him is, well, he scares me. Does Donald Trump as president scare you?
You know what? This government is so messed up, not even Donald Trump can take it down. And so I believe more in the strength of America and its founding principles than that. I'm not going to be afraid of one person.
Yeah, another thing I think he brings to the table is, and Senator McCarter kind of mentioned this, if you really want someone to repeal and replace the Department of Energy, or repeal and replace the Department of Education, or really redo the EPA, who's better than a Donald Trump to go in there and really shake up the system? Our problem is with law that we have a chief executive who then, by definition of the Constitution, the president runs the everyday operation of government. He does that through secretaries, through agencies. So if you have an chief executive who really is going to shake things up and, cut some of these agencies in half, who better out of that field to do that than Donald Trump?
Gentlemen, we will move on to closing statements because we are down to It's 12:50 already. So closing statements, and we flipped a coin over this. Congressman Shimkus will go with his 3-minute closing statement to get us started. Congressman.
Thank you, Todd. Again, I want to thank the radio group and, of course, here, WKRV, and located here in Vandalia, which I had the blessings to be able to represent for many, many years. Again, Republicans believe in competition. We believe that competition is good. This has helped me, check and make sure that the fire in the belly is still there to want to continue to serve. And definitely it's there. I've looked at my record, whether it's supporting the agricultural economy, attacking the EPA, protecting life, assisting our veterans, having a strong military. It's been a joy of my life. I do believe the public service is honorable. Having served in the Army 3 years overseas, in West Germany, protecting, the Western Europe from the Soviet Union, coming back to teach at a Christian high school, not lucrative, but for the right reasons, and then serving as a county treasurer in local government. Again, who's asked me to run is these groups that I'm proud to have their endorsement. The National Rifle Association has endorsed me as the sole candidate. The National Right to Life, we keep hearing this Planned Parenthood thing. If I did what I'm accused to have done, the National Right to Life would not have endorsed me. They just would not have done that. So, and so the U.S. Chamber and the National Federation of Independent Businessmen, and every state rep and every state senator who lives in my congressional district, along with, obviously the thousands of folks within the congressional district. It's a large district. It's challenging. A lot of miles on the car. We've been to them numerous times through open office hours or traveling help desk. Again, either fighting. There was a year when we fought to make sure the correctional facility here maintained and stayed open. That was with, at that time, Senator Watson, who has endorsed my campaign, along with Ron Stevens, former state rep here. So the people in this area know I work hard. I've been available. I've been accessible. I'm conservative. And I appreciate this time to have a closing statement and thank you, Todd, and WKRV for this opportunity.
Now to State Senator Kyle McCarter for your closing statement, sir.
Well, my opponent's made it real clear. He's backed by the politicians. And, that's part of the problem. I'm backed by the people. This 20 years ago, our representative made a promise, and he broke that promise. And keeping a promise is very important. It's important in our families. It's important in our businesses. It's important in life. And I'm going to keep my promise. I'm not going to get caught up into the Washington scheme of raising millions of dollars and spending it on lavish steak dinners and wine country tours in Napa Valley like he has. I'm going to defend the people. And you know what? This is the first time in 20 years that someone stood up to the bullying of the incumbency and the millions of dollars that my opponent has accumulated. We're here struggling in Illinois while he's spending $573,000 in $1. 573001. Over $573,000 on steak dinners at the Capitol Hill Grill and the Capitol Hill Club. And folks, you can go look at it yourself. He has spent $121,000 and $64. $121,000 on wine country tours in Napa Valley. This is a lifestyle that shouldn't be afforded a public servant. And it's wrong. It's completely wrong. And so, folks, enough is enough. We don't need any more career politicians. We need somebody to go there, fight for us. And a guy locally here told me something very important. He said, Kyle, you better come back bloodied and bruised from Springfield. And if we can't send our representative to Springfield or to Washington, D.C., and they can't come back as though they've been in a fight, we're in trouble. You know, we don't have to, we're not there to guarantee that we win all the time, but we have to be able to guarantee a fight. And I guarantee you a fight, folks. If you'll vote for me on March 15th, I will fight for you and you will have your voice back. The special interest of the American Chemistry Council with their gifts of $269,000 will not be able to steal your vote. They won't be able to steal your vote any longer. It's time that we stand up, and I ask that you vote for me on March 15th. God bless you. Thank you for this time on the radio.
I want to thank Congressman Shimkus, Senator McCarter, for being part of our event today. Our sponsors locally again, McKellar, Robertson, McCarty, and Click Insurance, and Priority Staffing Group is also brought to you by the Cromwell Media Group and the Vandalia Chamber of Commerce. And thank you to our listeners in Vandalia, of course, and Effingham, Mattoon, and Decatur as well. Again, thank you to Congressman Shimkus, Senator McCarter, for being part of our event today. And, of course, the primary is Tuesday, so a reminder to everyone to get out and vote in the primary on Tuesday, March 15th. And that will wrap up our coverage on this debate here on WKRV WPMB and throughout the Cromwell Media Group.